Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. Before we get started, of course, we do the viewer's pick of the week at the end of the episode, so if you want a chance to be featured on an episode, let me know your pick of the week in the comments. I also have a Kickstarter going on for Rainbow Canvas if you're interested in webtoon, romance webtoons. It is some of the most popular webtoon canvas books, and you get to see original stories in that series, including Slice of Life, our webtoon. Now let's jump into this week's books. There's a lot of books to talk about. It's a fifth Wednesday type week, so usually that means they front load a lot of things, and then like the next 2 weeks we won't actually get as many comic books. But let's get into it. Number 14 is Superboy, The Man of Tomorrow, issue 2. It was the reservations I kind of had with the first issue. I enjoyed the first issue because it was introducing this conundrum of Connor not feeling like he fits in. There's too many super people. He's like, why the hell do they need me? So he now goes to space. And I'm like, I don't know if I'll enjoy the space adventures. I'm not usually a sci-fi fan. I don't usually like that type of storytelling. And that's kind of what happens here. And also it just already feels like it's treading old water where it's like, I don't know where I should be. I guess I'll be here and let me fight these people. It just feels more fillerish and what I guess I expected with a round robin than what I got with that first issue where I'm like, oh man, maybe there will be like this big character arc that will affect Superboy. And now I'm like, maybe it'll just be a miniseries for the sake of a miniseries. I don't know if I'll pick up issue 3. I don't know if it was really my vibe. It was also very dark, the coloring. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 14. Moving on to number 13, which is She-Hulk, issue 13. And this issue has to do with a love triangle. So we got to see Jack of Hearts and this new character who's like the Black Cat version for She-Hulk. Most of it is just setting up the love triangle, and I don't really think much progresses. You don't really learn that much about the cat burglar. You don't really get to see that much from Jack of Hearts. It just kind of felt like a forgettable issue. Artwork is solid enough, but it just was a little bit too fillerish for me. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 13. So we're moving on to number 12. And that is The Flash, issue 799. And this is the penultimate issue of Jeremy Adams' run, which is ending. But he did not want to end, and I kind of feel that vibe here. It almost feels like, okay, we are stalling for issue 800, but there could have been a lot more story to be told with Wade's character. So Wade is Flash's son. They have to get him from Granny Goodness, and that's the story. They go back home. I've seen this story before, except this was a lot shorter than those versions of the story, and I just didn't feel like it had that oomph. And even the art, I don't think was the strongest here. Felt a little darker than I would expect for a series for this, or a story like this. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 12. All right, we are moving on to number 11, which is Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty, issue 12. This is the definition of a point A to point B issue. It's Captain America and friends trying to go to where Winter Soldier is. They have to fight people, and that's the issue. Get a little bit of emotion with Steve and him missing his son and wanting to save his son. And there's good art, like the action's good, like it's really good art. But the Winter Soldier art, I think it was a different artist, and I didn't like that as much. I don't think it was as strong. And as someone who's not like a huge Captain America fan, I don't think I got the little nuances to be like, well, we needed this issue. I'm like, I kind of just want to see the main conflict unfold at this point. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 12. And that's number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Cyborg issue 1. And I was really excited for this. I think Dawn of DC has been really hitting out of the ballpark. I wanted to, I don't want to say learn more about this character. I know the basics of the character, but I wanted to live with this character a little bit more. I think you need to be a Cyborg fan to really enjoy this. It's the idea of, you know, his father died, he's mourning his father, and then his father comes back as a robot. And I'm like, that's a cool cliffhanger, but as someone who's not a hardcore Cyborg fan, I don't know if I was like, wow, I really need to find out what happens next. It's just like, oh, that's cool for Cyborg fans that they can get a story like that and it's interesting enough. So that's why I was a bit torn with it. Also, the artwork was a little bit muddy. I didn't love the style for it, but overall giving that 3 stars. I still had a good time with it, but I just don't know, for me, in my personal taste, if I would get the next issue. Moving on to number 9. which is Arcade Kings, issue 1. My store actually was shorted of this, so I didn't get the physical book, but I did read it digitally. I could only compare this to Do a Powerbomb without as much emotion, right? It has a lot of let's do the arcade aesthetic. There's this family drama going on, but I just feel like it didn't have the heart as Do a Powerbomb did, because there's a lot of the action and why this is higher. Like, I love the art style. I just think it was really fun. Kind of, I don't know if it had a video game style. I think it almost had like an anime style to it. And it was just like really cool to look at. And there's little tidbits, again, of the family that happen. And I was like, okay, I think that could be interesting to see, where we get to see that unfold, and we get to see a bit more of the dad and this legacy of that guy. But it just didn't give me enough, and I didn't get enough of that. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is World's Finest, issue 15. I have not been liking this arc as much as I've enjoyed the last arc. This is very much about the Metal Men. I forget how you, what's Metaphisto? I think that's his name. I don't care about that character as much. And this is a very action-driven issue where we get to see, I mean, Dan More's art is gorgeous, and there's, this almost Zord like machinery, like the more anime mecha style for Batman. I'm like, oh, that's really cool to see, like, the combination of that. But the story doesn't really pick up until the end, where Robin's gonna, like, drive into a wall, and you're like, oh man, okay, now things are picking up. It's mostly just an action issue, this one. But if you like these characters and you like Metal Men and the more obscure side of DC, I think you'll like this a little bit more than someone who doesn't like that side of DC as much. Moving on to number 7, which is The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, issue 108. This issue has a lot to do with the mythology of Power Rangers, so we get to see Zordon fight against Zordon and see that all play through, which was a big part of Ryan Parrott's run. Kind of get to see the follow-through here. I'm not as much into the mythology of Power Rangers. I like the character interactions, even though I did like Zordon here. It does rely heavily on, let's talk about the past of the Eltors and all that. And again, it does tie in well to what Ryan Parrott was building up to. And I like this issue. It just didn't have as much Power Rangers as I want to, but the art was really fantastic for this. I really like the creative team a lot for this book, and I really think it's been a great predecessor to Kyle Higgins, Ryan Parrott, and now we have Melissa. So I've been really enjoying the baton that's been being passed around. I think it's a great track relay race here. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 7, I believe. Moving on to number 6, which is Batgirls, issue 18. This issue, I thought, there was pieces I liked of it, and which is why it's higher. I love the Cassandra and Stephanie moments where they just connect and talk about what, how they become better people because of them. But the cliffhanger of last issue is so much better than the follow-through here, where it's like, okay, we want to, like, kill the Batgirls, and you don't get as much of that here. It's a lot of building up to trying to build towards that villain. But I like the smaller moments. I like the Batgirls teaming up. I like the art. It just wasn't as strong as some of the previous issues, especially that last arc of Batgirls. So giving that 3 stars, and that's number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Bloodline, Daughter of Blade. And I've been really liking this book. I hate that this is the penultimate issue, because I feel like it has so much potential. And I like that it's just this new character. And look, it's not reinventing the wheel of teenage superheroes, but it's just this fun little corner of Marvel that could kind of do its own thing. It is connected to Blade. There's enough of a father-daughter relationship that it feels connected enough to superheroes. But it kind of has its own little story going on. Her mother's kidnapped. She has her own rival at the school. She's trying to also have a normal life. It's just fun YA stuff that I've seen that I'm glad Marvel is trying to embrace a little bit more. But again, is a shame that's only 5 issues. But I think this issue did a good job at progressing the story. We get to see more of the mother, obviously, because she gets kidnapped. So you get to have those stakes a little bit more. You get a little bit more of the relationship between Blade and it says daughter of Blade. I don't know her name. The daughter of Blade. Let's see. Her name is Brielle and Blade. So we get to see a little bit more of their interaction as well. The art is a little bit soft, but I'm still having a good time. I think it works for the vampire stuff. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. I'm surprised this is so high. Number 4 for me is Titans issue 1. I have been falling off a little bit on Nightwing. I mean, I've been reading it, but I haven't been enjoying it as much as that beginning series. And this issue, I think, was a good, solid first issue, because I think it just wasn't just Nightwing. So you had a little bit of time to breathe and look at other characters of like, okay, how does the Titans get together? We see that. And the art is gorgeous because it's Nicola Scott. We get to see some characters are dealing with other things. So like Aqualad, he can't join. And we're like, okay, that story probably will be picked up later. And then also it's still connecting to the bigger DC universe, kind of. We'll talk about that in a second. Because we get to see that they are kind of the new Justice League and everyone's looking at them like they're the new Justice League. They're adults, but they started as teens, so they're this legacy hero. But then in the end, we get to see Wally's about to die. He gets shot. We don't know why. And I'm like, okay, but we just read The Flash this week, and he was perfectly fine. Unless issue 800 connects to this. I don't love when books do that. We were like, okay, so it's happening in Titans that this character might be dead, but not in the other series, and it makes things feel a little less connected. And that's a shame for, a book that is supposed to be the Justice League of the franchise right now. And I feel, I just like when stories are a little bit more connected. But I thought this was a good beginning. I think there's a lot of potential. There are times where I think things have been treading old water of what Tom Taylor has done in the past. I think the Peacemaker side of stuff, the more military government stuff, I'm like, I've seen Tom Taylor tackle that. I don't know if I want to see him tackle it again in this series, but maybe he'll find a new angle for it. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Dark Ride, issue 6. This issue, I think, is more about the world building. It's more about learning about the mom. You get a little bit more of the relationship between the two, I don't want to call them the main characters, but the son of the amusement park and the sister of the boy that died. And we get to see them interact a little bit. And then the dad comes by. So you're like, okay, things are going to heat up by the next issue. But it's mostly learning about the different sides of this world. I think is it Murder World? No, is it actually called Dark World? I don't remember the name of the actual theme park. But now this is like Trash World. So we get to see this guy who's like the underground, almost mole man. And we get to see a different side of this amusement park. And it felt like, okay, this is going to be more important later. But I still liked it. I enjoyed the issue. So giving that 3.5 stars, I just don't know if it was like a wow issue as we gotten in the past. Moving on to number 2. And that's Superman, issue 4. I got the foil cover for this one, too. It's cool that DC is doing the foil covers, and it's like an extra $1, I think. So it's actually, it's an extra couple dollars, $7.99 for that one. So there you go. I mean, it's foil cover. Of course I'm going to get it. But with this issue, I really liked it. I thought it was a really solid issue. I love this series. I think it's so almost, I want to say soap opera-ish, and not in a bad way. I want to say, the reason I'm saying that, because it really feels like it has a continuous plot that plays in itself, right? Every issue builds on its drama a little bit more than maybe some other comics where it's like, okay, here's action. It's like, okay, but what's the drama? Where are we building towards? And this feels like its own world in that way, where we get to see Superman interacting with Lex. We get a little bit more of that story of Lex actually being a superhero in the past. You're like, whoa, didn't see that coming. This book is doing so many different things with Superman. I love that too, but still embracing what makes Superman work. So I'm like, that's really cool. And then in the end, everything ties together with Silver Sable, or Silver Banshee. She is now dating Jimmy Olsen. You're like, oh man, that's cool too. Because Silver Banshee's not that bad of a person. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. I wouldn't call her an anti-hero, but we've seen better, brighter versions of her. So you're like, okay, how did this happen? They kind of kept it a secret. Art is tremendous for this book. It's just a great creative team. And I want to see 100 issues later where this ends up going, because it just feels like it's building such a fantastic world. So overall, giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Number 1 for me is The Avengers, issue 1. I was pleasantly surprised by this book. So I have not read an Avengers book, I don't know, fully probably since Bendis, if I'm being honest. I drop Avengers books very quickly. But this one was just a really great way to tell a team book, right? It's to the point. Captain Marvel's trying to put an Avengers team together. She interacts with her friends, said, this is why I want you on the team. But what was really great, it didn't feel expositionary. It actually talked about past events and how they've been affected by past events and why they'd be part of the team, what baggage they're bringing. And then by the end, you also get this Kang cliffhanger, which obviously is tying into the movies a little bit too. But, Kang's a big Marvel villain as well. So you get the cliffhanger, you get the team together. And it was just kind of a perfectly written issue 1. I cared about the characters, and I already care about where this is going. And that's how you build an issue 1, which is why I did have this higher than Superman. I think Superman, for me, I'm enjoying the world even more, but this was just a really perfectly executed team issue 1, which I haven't seen from Avengers in a while. So I gave that 4.5 stars. That is my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was. And the viewer's pick of the week was Green Lantern issue 1. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.